Okay, this video is about expanding or multiplying out brackets. This is a skill that we use within algebra, quite often with equations, and when we look at equations involving brackets, obviously we need this skill to be able to solve them. So I'm going straight into an example, as usual, and I'd like you just to have a look at this. So if we look at example 1, and I want you to remember Bidmass. Or some of you may have learnt it as Bidmass. Okay, now Bidmass stands for brackets, indices, divide, multiply, add, subtract, and that is the order of operations that we use in mathematics. So if we're asked to perform a calculation and there are brackets within the calculation and something inside the brackets, we should work that out first. If there's indices or powers, which in the word Bidmass, O for me meant powers of, okay, but I prefer I because it's the first letter of indices. If there's powers involved or indices involved, then you work those out, then you do divide, then multiply, then add, then subtract. So that's the order, and you would have done that many years ago and covered it again over the last few years of secondary school. So if we look at this problem, I'm going to say method 1, M1, and I asked you to work out this 5 bracket 2 plus 3 close brackets. Now what this means is 5 times, there's a little invisible time sign here, 2 plus 3. Now if we're going to use Bidmass, then we need to work out what is inside the brackets first. Okay, we don't write the time sign when we put a number in front of a bracket. We simply know that means 5 times whatever's inside the bracket. So if we work out what is inside the bracket, 2 plus 3, that's 5 of course, and if that means 5 times 5, then that is of course 25. Okay, now let's look at method 2. Let's look at what happens, okay, if we take our 5 bracket 2 plus 3 again, but this time I'm going to multiply the 2 by 5 and then add that to 5 multiplied by the 3. And let's see if we get the same answer. So this time, instead of following Bidmass and working this out inside the bracket and then times them by 5, I'm going to times each number by 5 and then add up my answers. And if you've looked already, you should have worked out by now that that's going to be 10 plus 15, which is of course 25 as well. So we can multiply each number separately by the number outside and then add them up, and we still get the same total. But if we look at another example, but this time involving some algebra, some letters, let's look at 2 bracket x plus 1. Now this time we cannot add these up. X plus 1 we cannot add. Why? Because they're not like terms. That's something we learned in the video collecting like terms. We cannot add x and 1. We can add x and other x's. We can add numbers with numbers like we did up here. But we can't add x and 1. So we can't use Bidmass here. We can't use method 1. We can't add those up and then multiply by 2. So we only, if we want to expand or multiply out the brackets, which is what we call this, we can only use method 2. We can only multiply each term inside the bracket by what is outside the bracket. So if we take that 2x, 2 bracket x plus 1, then all we can do is 2 times the x plus 2 times the 1, and then work that out. 2 times x, well of course, is just 2x. We just drop the time sign because we don't write time signs in algebra, plus 2 times 1 is 2. and that is that bracket expanded to give me that expression. Okay, let's have a look at another example. I'm just going to move the page up a second. A couple more examples. Remember to bring my pen up this time. Okay, example 3. Let's have a look. What about 5 bracket 2x plus 3? So, just like before, we cannot add 2x and 3. We can't do that, they're not like terms. 2x plus 3 is 2x plus 3 all day long. So what we can do, if we're going to expand these brackets or multiply them out, is multiply each term separately by the 5. So we've got 5 times the 2x plus 5 times the 3. Okay, 5 times 2x is 10x, because 5 2s are 10, plus 5 times 3 is 15. Simple as that. Okay, so that's that bracket expanded, multiplied out. And the answer is 10x plus 15. Okay, let's look at another example by here. What if we had a negative number outside? What if we had minus 2 outside x plus 4? And you're asked to expand that or multiply it out. Well, this time then, again, we cannot add those up. We have to use the method 2. We have to do minus 2 times the first term, the x, plus minus 2 times 4. Okay, so what does that give me? Minus 2 times x is minus 2x. Now we know a plus next to a minus is the same as minus 2 times 4. And what's minus 2 times 4? Well, if you remember the rules, a negative times a positive is a negative, and 2 times 4 is 8. So minus 2 times x is minus 2x. Minus 2 times plus 4, that's really what we had, was minus 8. Now, when you get quite experienced at this, you don't have to write the time signs all the time. This is for the examples only and to illustrate what is happening. So if I did one more example, maybe 2 more. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at example 5. If we had minus 5 bracket 3x minus 2, then I would simply do this. Minus 5 times plus 3x. There's no plus there. There's no sign there. We know that means plus. That's positive. Something is only negative if there's a minus sign in front. So the 5 is negative and this 2 is negative. So I do the signs first. Minus times a plus is a minus. 5 times 3x is 15x. Then I need to do minus 5 times minus 2. Minus times a minus is a plus. 5 times 2 is 10. Done. And that's the kind of thing you would do when you get experienced. You don't need to write it out in full like I was doing in the first 4 examples. That is just for you to see. Okay, and this might help you as well. So final example, if we had 7 bracket 3x minus 4, then what we could do is show that we've got to times this by this term and also the 7 by this term. Remember, the minus is part of the 4. Okay, so the sign is part of the 4. So you do 7 times the 3x and 7 times the minus 4, just like I've shown you in all the previous examples. So of course that's going to give me, let's go back to my blue, 7 times 3x is 21x, and plus times a minus is a minus. It's going to stay as a minus. 7 times 4, 28. Okay, and that is basic expanding or multiplying out a bracket. Okay, thank you very much.